Yes, I know with like mental health conditions, it can cause some people to like neglect their self-care, and so not feel motivated to get dressed, not want to get dressed. So if that is like an issue, even if you don't have that help, even if you don't have someone to prompt you or to like make you get up and get dressed, that does count as like help that you need, that you don't get, because like clearly there is a need there. The next bit is on communicating. So yeah, first bit, do you need an aid to communicate with others? Again, they list like some like hearing and voice aids, picture symbols and assistive computer technology. I haven't mentioned this before, but I've got a mild hearing impairment. It only really affects me if I'm in an environment with lots of background noise. But in order to take a phone call, like the only way that I can hear what a person's saying, particularly, I can sometimes use speakerphone if I'm at home and it's deadly quiet and I can hear if I can get the volume loud enough. But I have to usually use like earphones and like a microphone, like a headpiece. And I looked it up, and that does count as an aid. And yeah, the second part of the question is, do you need help from another person to communicate with others? This was another question where it seemed quite straightforward, but I didn't end up getting scored on it, even though clearly I do use an aid and have a need for one. It's on reading, so it's like, do you need an aid to read signs, symbols and words? And this question does seem to focus on like eyesight a lot, like even in the second one, like, do you need help from another person to read and understand signs, symbols and words? Yeah, and it almost like focuses on like the visual act of reading, but it also does include like your ability to be able to understand and process what you're reading. And this is important to remember because a lot of like chronic illnesses, whether they're physical health related or mental health related, they can cause like brain fog and difficulty with concentration. Certainly, like even with my mental health, that does affect my concentration. So you might sometimes be able to like actually read the text, but you're not taking in what it's saying. You have to read it like you feel like you're reading the same sentence again and again. That does class as like needing help sometimes. Next section is mixing with other people. So the first, all of this question is kind of based on support. So it's like, do you need another person to help you mix with other people? Again, they elaborate a little bit, but I had to seek like further guidance because for me, sometimes like I am able to on my own meet people who I know well and I'm close with, like most of the time. Again, it depends on where I'm at with my mental health, but I find it extremely difficult to meet people that I haven't met before on my own. Like, definitely I would usually need someone else with me to manage that, and that does count as like needing help in that area. The second part is like, do you find it difficult to mix with other people because of severe anxiety or distress? That came into my mind is, what do they class as severe anxiety or distress? Like, that can be quite different for different people, but Citizens Advice was really helpful on this point. They basically said that if like meeting people or socialising has ever made you feel like you either couldn't go or you go and you've had to leave early, or afterwards you felt distressed in any way, that does all count as like severe anxiety or distress, because it is like having an impact on your ability to mix with others and socialise. The 12 is making decisions about money. So again, it's kind of, both the questions are focused around support, but it's basically, do you need any support to help with like the act of buying things, like being able to like give the right change, that kind of thing. And like to help you understand the process of buying something. That isn't an area that I've struggled with particularly. And then the second bit, like more help like with managing money. So do you need help to make decisions around money, to pay bills on time, like to manage your money? Again, like there is the sometimes box, because I find I don't really have an issue in this area, but like if for whatever reason, like my ability to concentrate, say, and make decisions around money, it does vary according to like how my health is in general. So yeah, that's important to consider if your condition's quite variable. I actually ended up getting schooled in that section, even though I said that I didn't have any problems in that area, but I suppose maybe it's the variable, yeah, how variable my condition can be. Yeah, next section is going out. So, yeah, it's all, do you need help from another person to plan a route to somewhere you know well, and then the second like is the same but to a place that you don't know well. Again, really important to note that it does include help that you have and also help that you need but don't get. That was important for me to remember, and it also includes like being able to manage your safety when you're out. So in my case, like because of PoTS, if I'm out on my own, or well with anyone, if I'm out in general, there is a chance that I can faint in a public place. So my safety is compromised, and my ability to get around can be like hugely restricted in that way. And so it can be helpful to actually give really specific examples, like in the second section about like, yeah, where you give more details of your difficulties around going out. Like I kind of gave specific examples, like within the past few weeks I've fainted this many times in public, and it has affected my safety, that kind of thing. Yeah, I would say like give relevant and recent examples of where you haven't had the support you needed and what it resulted in, because that often makes it quite clear where the problem is. Yeah, the next question is really around mobility, so it's moving around. And then it says like, how far can you walk taking into account any aids that you use? And it's all like less than 20 metres, between 20 and 50 metres, like, and kind of goes up, and the highest is like 200 metres or more, or there's a box saying it varies. And kind of for all of these, I was in the it varies category very much. Because my ability to walk, because of like PoTS, varies from not at all to like a fair different distance, so say the full 200 metres. Something that I found out through like looking at further guidance is that actually needing to take rest breaks, so to sit on a bench, which is something I have to do to really manage walking any distance, that does count as an aid. And then the second question is like, do you need an aid or appliance to walk? So that includes like any mobility aids, like, and there's another one about using like a wheelchair. And again, those aren't relevant to me, but they are quite straightforward in that they make quite a clear list. That's all the questions, and then they provide like an additional information section. And I would say, again, make best use of providing every detail you could. I found that sometimes the boxes like given for the other parts of the question, I couldn't fit in everything that I had to write about, so I kind of used that additional information box as an overflow to provide more details on each of those questions. But it also says in that section that you can provide, like carers, friends and family can provide further information. And I would really take them up on that, because it is really good to have another perspective within your assessment. Sometimes someone else might be more aware of your support needs than you are, or like they might spot something that you've missed or just haven't thought of, because they're looking in from another perspective. So yeah, in my case, I didn't get someone else to write it. I just said, like, I do receive some limited help from, like, friends and family with getting around, food shopping, that kind of thing, and tasks around the home. Application form, you have to send it off with a lot of supporting evidence from medical professionals in your care. And with that, I think it's really important to provide the right kind of information, because where people can go wrong is that often the professionals will provide a lot of just general information about a particular condition or diagnosis, so like a list of the symptoms, whereas what like PIP is assessing for is how those symptoms affect you in your daily life. So what helped when I was like requesting this medical evidence, is that I actually sent copies of like what I had written for my PIP form to the other professionals, like to the professionals in my care, so that they could look at each section and like support my view, if they thought it was right. Obviously they did, and as well to obviously have like diagnostic tests and like reports from that kind of thing to actually confirm that you do have that problem. But I think a lot of people go wrong in that they focus too much on that when PIP is more looking at your support needs, and like just how your condition affects you in your daily life and your mobility. So you fill in all that. This is where things weren't so straightforward for me. It is possible that you can have PIP assessed purely through a paper assessment. In the case, to provide a good example, for example, like my granddad receives PIP, and that's because he's a wheelchair user. He's paralysed from the waist down. It was an injury he got like, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, probably more than that. It's all well documented, and obviously it is the type of condition where he is not going to get better. He is not suddenly going to be able to walk. So in those kind of cases where the condition can be very easily proven and documented on paper, there's no need for like a face-to-face assessment. They can go to like your professionals in your care and request like additional information. That did happen in my case. I managed to get it all. But if they feel that there is a need, then they will arrange like a face-to-face assessment for you, and that's with like one of their clinicians, and it will be someone relevant, so has some knowledge of your particular condition. Like in my case before, when I went to an assessment, when I applied for PIP, I did see like a mental health nurse. In my case, the professionals in my care had actually put in their supporting evidence that they did not feel that I was suitable for a face-to-face assessment, purely because you usually have to travel quite far from your home to actually go to an assessment, and it just wasn't realistic because of like parts that I would be able to manage that journey myself without support, like even getting there. It just wasn't realistic, and also that I struggle, which I think I've mentioned before and I'm sure other people do as well, to meeting someone new face to face that I haven't met before, and like communicating clearly about, particularly like communicating and being really honest about where I struggle and where I need help, because I don't like to admit where I'm struggling. I like to focus on like the positives, so they wouldn't necessarily get a clearer picture from seeing me in person. But anyway, so they did actually request a face-to-face assessment. It wasn't realistic. Then they requested a home visit, which had also been put in my supporting evidence that actually that was even more unsuitable, because due to past trauma I have a particular anxiety about people that I haven't met before coming into my home, like into my space. When it was coming down to it, had I had to have a face-to-face assessment, they're arranging for it to be done at like the mental health centre, and to have like my lead practitioner from the community mental health team present to help me. I think that's the only way I could have managed it, but still it would have been very difficult. So when all that was happening, it was really stressful, but my psychologist, who's like one of the key people in my care, she got in contact with like the Department of Work and Pensions, which is where all the benefits come from, and explained in more detail about how a face-to-face assessment just wasn't going to be suitable for me, and surprisingly they actually said that they were more wanting to see me in person to assess like my physical health, but it seems strange because I had provided an awful lot of information. Provided loads of information, and POTS is a very variable condition, so they would only be seeing me on like one day, and yeah, like my psychologist explained that actually they wouldn't gain anything from seeing me in person. All that would happen is that they would stress me out, and my mental health and like POTS becomes worse when I'm stressed out. It would just cause me further distress, and it wouldn't really they wouldn't gain anything from seeing me. It would just be them seeing me stressed. So yeah, thankfully because of that, they did decide in the end that they were able to collect enough evidence to do a paper assessment and to speak to like my the people in my care over the phone. And yes, I was really relieved. And as I said, I did end up receiving a PIP. Yeah, you get through like a letter which will say that you're awarded, or you haven't been successful in your application, and basically there's like, I think I've mentioned, there's two elements to PIP. There's like daily living, and then there's mobility, and for each there's like a standard rate and then an enhanced rate, and I ended up getting the enhanced rate for both, which I was really, really pleased about, because it's been a really long road and actually I do need that level of support. So I was happy with the categories that I've put in. It does show you as well where you're scored for like the different areas, and I wasn't necessarily happy with where I was scored, in that some areas I thought I should have been scored a bit more, but yeah, like the overall picture was that I was happy. Apparently quite a lot of other people like wouldn't necessarily agree with where they've been scored, but they're happy with the overall picture. Yeah, it is a very long process. I think I've mentioned it before. It's supposed to be something like 15 weeks they give as a guide, from where you first like ring up about applying to when you actually receive some money, like when you receive PIP. In my case it was nearer to 20 weeks, but the good thing is that once you receive it, you do get it backdated for those 15 weeks, which yeah, was a huge relief to me on Christmas Eve. It's like a Christmas present from the government. And yeah, so that's good. It's just hard in the waiting time. Hello again, it's later now because my battery cut out just as I was about to end the video earlier, which was a bit annoying. Yeah, so sorry for the awful lighting, but anyway, I think where I got up to is that I was saying, you are in the process of applying for PIP. It is a long process, so but persevere with it, because it is absolutely worth it in the end. Yeah, just keep on going and know that you will get there eventually, and you can always appeal your decision if you're not happy with it. Make use of all the resources and support that you do have. So it was really helpful in my case to get the people in my care to support my application, and they did so really well. Yeah, so I hope this has been interesting, and that the advice that I've shared based on my experiences is helpful in some way. If you like these kind of videos, then like, subscribe, and hopefully there'll be more of them to come. Now, thank you for watching, and bye!